Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade as we take a little bit of a revisit into the Iron Reapers. It's just going to be a fairly quick revisit, but they've actually had a couple of buffs over the last few months and it's kind of made them back into being a slightly interesting unit again. Essentially they've had the leadership cost reduced, the number of men in the unit increased and out to 18, and they actually just got some base damage increase buffs as well, particularly I think with the FLAIL in their block break. So it actually has made them a reasonably effective unit. They're probably not as god tier as they once were, you know, way back. There used to be a time when Iron Reapers were so dominant and so meta. They're not that, but they are certainly a usable and effective unit. Very quickly, in terms of the veterancy line, I actually haven't changed this since my last video. So I went through this in more detail in that one. I think I actually stole the veterancy line of someone, I think. But anyway, that's the setup I kind of run with. Obviously, they are extremely tanky. I mean, they're the most tanky unit in the game in terms of their defensive stats. You know, over 1,200 piercing defense, which is kind of cool, and 13,000 hit points, which definitely at one point in this game sounded a lot more impressive than it actually does now. In terms of doctrines, got some nice ones on here with them. Unit damage and hero damage, really just for the AP more than anything else. But obviously things like this unit damage doctrine is such a nice doctrine to get. I end up taking this off and transferring this around whatever unit I'm playing the most at the time. But we've also got things like the extra base blunt damage increase, gives a little bit of health as well. And the slashing, which is obviously nice when they're using their sword. Because I'm essentially using the flail to charge, particularly if I'm charging into shield units. And then I'm immediately switching to sword, on with Tiger Step, and then getting the damage in. Obviously a siege fighter doctrine, and just a base defensive doctrine just to up those defensive points slightly more, and a little bit of extra health. Although, to be honest, for 35 points, I'm not entirely sure that's even that good a doctrine, to be honest. There's a damage reduction one that I've got somewhere else. I think it might be on my Shield Maidens, which does a percentage damage reduction, which is probably going to be more effective. Anyway, we won't have a really long intro on this one. Let's just hop into some battles then and see what we can do with the Iron Reapers. So, we're going to kick things off on Empyrean Sands, a map that I wish they could just burn from the server hard drives. Just give me Regionopolis back any day of the week. Anyway, a little bit into the game, we've had some fights on the walls, and basically we've got the enemy basically captured the back supply point and is pushing around on the top. I kind of was trying to decide whether I wanted to go up there, but I didn't think I did really because it's quite a block. And unless we're going to push as one team, it seems like a bad idea. I would rather wait till they clear the staircase and then charge in from the side, particularly if they're going to be lobbing javelins at me. Anyway, they get into this sort of bit of a stalemate briefly where the enemy probably kind of is aware that they're going to get pounced on as soon as they come off the bottom of the stairs. One or two of them come down and push to the right. And I was actually going to go for that unit of Imperial Shields, but as these guys pulled back at the top and I saw we had friendly team pushing around from the other side on the top, I decided that it was going to be worth me trying to get round, as I try and open up my artillery menu for some reason. Anyway, we come around, clear the corner, I've got them in flail mode, go straight in for the charge against the unit of shields. The shield charge really here is quite effective with that flail against shield units because it has quite a lot of block break. But as soon as I land, I'm switching to the sword, I'm putting their Tiger Step on, and I'm putting their self-heal on. And actually they really hold up quite well here. We quite comfortably take out a couple of enemy heroes, and ultimately, even though it actually takes a little bit of a while, and I think Tiger Step has probably worn off by now, we can deal with those Imperial Shields without too much trouble. So in this sort of situation, I think the Iron Reapers just work really well. Because they're so tanky, they can really just dish out quite a lot of damage, and they just hold up well, really. And we didn't really lose very much of the unit. Anyway, since my charge is going to shortly be coming off cooldown, I switch them back over to flail mode and head back down to the A point, because we've got a few guys actually starting to push up the main steps onto A. I decided to flank round just to the right, get myself lined up, and then just charge straight at them. And that's really kind of how I mostly play this unit. Nothing clever, nothing fancy, just straight into the fight. Immediately flatten an enemy hero. You've got to bear in mind we're up to 60 kills now. And then basically get them stuck in. Again, you know, on with the sword, on with Tiger Step, on with the self-heal. Push through these Shield Maidens, and then we get hit by the Yan Yadao, which is a little bit more painful. But actually, even with that, they held up really remarkably well as we grab a final hero kill as well. And so we ultimately basically end up getting 100 kills with them. I think 4 hero kills, something like that. They really hold up well in these sort of big fights because they're so tanky and because their damage output is now pretty large. And, you know, it helps having a couple of extra units in the, a couple of extra models in the unit as well. You know, 18 Iron Reapers for a stack now. They really just seem to handle themselves quite nicely. Next up, we end up in the closing stages of a match on Orlenburg, pushing for the final point, just waiting for the enemy Imperial Pike March to end as we come around the corner, straight in with a flail charge. 10, 15 kills, something like that, switch over to the swords, as usual, on with the Tiger Step, on with the self-heal, and we just push through this enemy line here. Really very minimal damage we end up taking as we push through, and we manage to grab the longsword as well. So we fight through there fine, and then we're going to be making a push on the final point. Now things kind of get all a little bit all over the place here, really, because as we push in, the enemy kind of scatters, and then we get a few units coming from a few different directions. Initially, I'm just trying to sort of keep the unit back and trying to deal with whatever sort of crops up, because we're kind of a big blob here in the middle, and the enemy's trying to flank in a few directions. I try and engage these Onimusha on the right as they get hit by the flamethrower. As we come around, they join up with the second unit, charge straight in, don't have time to switch back to flail, but actually on a unit of Onimusha like that, with no shields, the sword charge is absolutely fine. I mean, it just really butchers them really quickly. And it means we've still got our Tiger Step off cooldown, so we can activate that again when we get next stuck into a fight. We get some more Onimusha pushing in from the front as well with a few other tier 4 units, so we go with our Tiger Step on as we kind of try and fight on that middle point, trying to get the enemy cleared off and pushed back. As we sort of start to get somewhere, we get another unit of Yan Yadao coming in. These guys do seem to be in every match at the moment, but they don't really seem to end up doing much. There's just too many allied units here. And then basically we decided it's probably worth trying to push forward to the point rather than standing on it, and then we can kind of block up this grab. So I switched them back over to flail mode, and we get actually a load of camels coming in. And we charge quite nicely into the camels, switch back over to sword, and then as it comes off cooldown we can put our Tiger Step back on, and they can merrily start munching through everything in front of them as the team at the back of the map ends up getting the capture on the final point. And there we go. We get another nice little victory. And finally, to a little bit of Riverlands, to a clip where I don't particularly play them very well at all, but it's kind of interesting how when you just charge them into a random fight, they still kind of seem to come off okay, and so that suits me quite nicely. This first fight, we end up not charging in because I didn't want to charge into the samurai if they were going to do a stab into me. So I essentially just go in with swords drawn into a Tiger Step. Actually managed through them with some team support pretty easily, because up sort of 30-40 kills. Then turn around, I switch over to flail because I've still got my charge obviously on or off cooldown. Come over to the point and then just yeet them in, really. That's about all the planning that went into that one. But then basically get stuck into my own little fight as a hero. I just stick them over onto sword mode and basically leave them to it. And they do slowly get killed in this fight. You know, they're up against a lot of stuff, but they actually hold up for quite a long time. And it is impressive the number of kills they get even without sort of really being managed just in the middle of a melee. And you can see some monastics in without really managing to get a charge off, but hey ho. And ultimately, there we go, the last few of them get killed. Anyway, Iron Reapers, a really viable unit at the moment. They're by no means the greatest tier 5 in the game, they're not super meta or anything like that, but they are a really solid unit. They seem to work quite nicely, they're pretty dependable, and they're pretty forgiving if you do something stupid. The only thing to bear in mind is that they walk tremendously slowly. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys all on the next one.